Venkat, thank you so much for joining us today. You were one of the co-founders of the Wharton India Economic Forum 15 years ago, and was wondering, what did you see then that spurred you to found the conference back then? What did you see?
I mean, I think, when I came to Wharton, it was very interesting to see the awareness of India. It had just begun to emerge on the global scene. The economic liberalization had started. People felt there was enormous potential. But there's still the awareness, the knowledge, the excitement was limited. When you enter what's called the preeminent business school globally, and you see how limited the awareness about the country is, there was a view that it would be great to have an event which will help educate people not only in Wharton but throughout the US about the opportunity in India. There was also another view that we needed to create a greater interaction between the two countries, so where business leaders and political leaders of both places can come and share views of what the opportunity is, what the challenges are, and more importantly, to address what can be done better. So I think it was a combination of education, but it was also a combination of creating the future growth of India, because without this, it's not going to happen. So I think that was the fundamental driver. It was obviously a tall order. First view was, can you get the people that matter? As with any event, the success of it is driven by who's part of it. We dream big, and we always believe that unless you get the best to share their views, you're not going to be successful. But we were fortunate from the very beginning that we've had the top financial and political leaders from both sides of the globe come and share their views. I mean, it's easy today to see in 15 years, I wouldn't think of any major Indian CEO who has not spoken at WIEF, or any finance minister or governor of the Reserve Bank, or the Assistant Secretary of State like you have Blake, or the many US CEOs who've been part of this event over the years. So that was, I think, the primary driver. The interesting part of it is also India's changed over that 15 years, and WIEF has had to change. Now, as Rob Blake said, the number of people who come even for vacation to the US has dramatically increased. I mean, think like almost 1 million people from India come just on vacation to the US. But now it's more that I think it's gone from that India has emerged in the opportunity. It's now talking about how both economies and business and strategically can benefit, and what needs to be done to go from here. So every year, that's the role WIEF plays, and that's why I think most people who want to hear what's happening in terms of the latest in India find this as a better venue than any other place. And I'm very happy to see that Wharton playing that leading role year after year.
Right. You spoke about some of the prominent leaders who have come to speak.
Sure.
What are some of the changes you've seen over the years in terms of some of the companies that have had the spotlight, not had the spotlight? Talk about some of those changes that you've seen over the years.
The first interesting thing, I think most importantly, I'll draw a parallel to the first year. Almost a lot of the speakers who came from India came to this conference and left after the conference. And you might ask, why is that relevant? It just meant that they had so limited US involvement beyond that conference. They all were excited to come and share their views. Today, the amount of business that's global of US companies going to India, US political leaders, I mean, at that time, I don't know last time the US president had gone to India, versus now, the first state visit of any foreign leader, that's the US president hosts, happens to be of an Indian leader, and he happens to go to India within his first, 2 years. So that's the part which has changed. The interaction, the focus of both areas of being so interlinked has dramatically increased. So we went to a time when people understood India and both sides felt, oh, we'll have greater collaboration, to now it's already happened. I mean, for businesses on both sides, For U.S. businesses, India is a very important market. For Indian businesses, access to U.S. markets, both financial and otherwise, is very relevant. And same thing on a strategic and political landscape. India is now considered a real global player, and its viewpoints are requested in that. So I think that has changed a lot. That means that India is now considered one of the most important economies on both sides. So I think that's there. And the second thing, I think, which I touched on earlier in my comments, is the confidence of people in India has increased dramatically, that they have a role to play in the global economy. And I think also the acceptance of global players that India is relevant in the global economy has also increased. So in some perspective, it's very exciting to see that change. And it'll be very exciting to see, what in 10 years when we're sitting here, where India would have gone from today.
So look into that crystal ball for a minute, if you will. What do you see 5, 10 years down the line as this conference continues? And if there's someone, on your wish list that you would love to come see, at the conference to speak, who might it be?
Sure. I mean, I think a few things I'd like to, see is in the next 10 years, I actually think what has happened is we went about 15 years ago when this conference was founded that India was just a place of opportunity. It had a lot of people. So obviously, some part of that are going to be middle class, and they're going to be relevant. Nothing more than that. And there was a little bit of IT outsourcing. Companies had gone. Now there's been a creation. There have been global companies. They're real revenues, real profits, and Indians have succeeded in global businesses. India politically has had a role. But it's still in that peripheral of not being sort of, I would say it's clearly in the top 10 economies in the world. The question is it the top 2 to 5 economies? And I think there's no reason in the world that in the next 10 years when we're sitting, there would not be the top 3 or 4 important economies if you think about US, China, and India being sort of the top 3. So I think that's the next opportunity that we'll see. And I think you'll also see, the role of the Indian businesses being even more global. I think, it's great today to be able to, I was looking, had to go for a wedding to Boston for Memorial Day, and, I was looking at hotels, and it's Taj Boston. So the fact that, the Tata's own Land Rover and Jaguar, these are, the Pierre Hotel in New York. This is the symbols of luxury, of quality per se, being part of an Indian business empire. So I think, what would be so exciting to see that in 10 years from now, that people accept a lot of things that's made in India or that's part of an Indian business, and it's more common. So I think that would be the great thing for us to see 10 years. It started now, but it's on the fringe, and in 10 years, could it be much more prevalent that, people would say joining Infosys and, or others is just like joining Accenture or any other place out of business school. So I think that's the one opportunity I clearly think in that. And I think I'm very confident it will happen. And I'm very confident that WIEF will attract the business leaders of tomorrow. If you ask me, I think one person that I would like to see who has not been at WIEF, obviously her son has spoken at WIEF, but is Sonia Gandhi. And I think one, because she is a woman who didn't have her original roots in India, wasn't really have original interest in politics, was married into it, or gave birth to people who are into it, but has helped shape and adapt herself and a party to that changes that have happened. It'd be great to see what parallels that she thinks about the same level of innovation and interaction. We've had again a lot of the finance ministers saying, but we'd love to see the the Prime Minister of India also speak at the event. That set aside, I'm very pleased on the other spectrum. I always felt that WIEF has done a very good job of attracting the very elite from India. Almost, as I said, the who's who from the business world and the political world in India has spoken. I would like this to be a stomping point for the who's who on this side of the Atlantic. And I think it started, and I think having Secretary Blake is very positive, but that is what I want to see, the US major company CEOs and the US political landscape why not have Secretary of State and Hillary Clinton and people of that nature be at this event and talking more about the relevance and importance of India, and not only in the economic perspective, but politically and strategically. And I think as I talk to the organizers of WIEF, I've encouraged them that the governor of Pennsylvania should be part of the event, the mayor of Philadelphia should be part of it. They should be proud that WIEF, and which is part of Philadelphia and Pennsylvania, is hosting this, and the senators and everything. So I do think that because of the importance of India, you will see that in the next 10 years, the tremendous increase, I think, of participation from US players.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.